everyone, welcome to Keep It Casual, a video tutorial series featuring clean and simple card making. I'm Andrea, owner of Paper Crafters Library and Andrea Walford Designs. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I created this fall thank you card featuring a stamped glitter technique. The leaf and acorn images for this card come from Papertrey Inc.'s Autumn Acorns stamp set, and I use this stamp set in conjunction with its coordinating die, the Autumn Acorns die, and I die cut the pieces out of Papertrey's Stampers Select white cardstock using my Big Shot. Now, before stamping each piece, I was careful to take a little Dotto adhesive, which is a temporary removable adhesive, and stick my die cut piece down onto my grid paper so that it didn't stick to my stamp. Now, as you can see there, I'm using a medium called the Essential Glue Pad, which is essentially a glue that you don't have to heat set at all. It acts to hold the glitter in place, and that's a product from Sukineko. So as you can see, I'm very carefully trying to pry up my die cut piece after it was stamped with the glue pad. I'm placing it inside a coffee filter and then using some of my Glitter Ritz copper opaque microfine glitter. Now, I did sprinkle it very generously on top of the die cut image, as you can see there. And I used my finger, making sure that my finger was clean and dry, to gently press the glitter down into the glue. And really, that's all you need to do. Now, once I had done that, I carefully picked up my piece using my tweezers and then held the edges between my fingers and just lightly tapped the back to try to get rid of any excess glitter. So that keeps it from being too messy once you've placed it on your card. And then, of course, all the excess glitter I just funneled back into my little container using my coffee filter. Now, I stamped my second smaller leaf in exactly the same manner, using that same Essential Glue Pad onto the die cut piece, which was adhered to my grid paper using some of that Dotto adhesive. Now, this time I sprinkled on a different glitter from Glitter Ritz. This one's called Dark Gold Opaque Microfine Glitter, and once again you can see I'm working over my coffee filter. Now, I used the exact same coffee filter that I did for the previous glitter color. I just made sure that I gave it a really good shake and tap over top of my garbage can. And I followed the same procedure. I applied a generous amount over top of my die cut, very carefully pressed it down with a clean and dry finger, and then picked up my die cut piece and just tapped off the excess. And then, of course, I funneled my glitter back into my glitter container using my coffee filter. Now, the last image I stamped was this acorn image. Now, this is a little bit different than the other ones because it comes in two pieces. There's a bottom piece and a top piece, and that's so you can make it look more realistic, because typically if you look at an acorn, the bottom of the acorn is a different color than the top. So I inked up the bottom first in the Essential Glue Pad. And once I had done that, I placed it inside my coffee filter. Again, the same coffee filter, just made sure it was nice and clean. And this time I chose the Glitter Ritz Sand Opaque Microfine Glitter. Did the same thing though, sprinkled a generous amount on top, pressed it down with a clean dry finger, and then funneled the excess back into my container before moving on and stamping the top portion of my acorn. So once I had finished with the bottom half of the acorn, I then took the top half that you see there, inked it up on my Essential Glue Pad, and then very carefully stamped it on the top half of my die cut image. For the top of the acorn, the glitter that I chose to use was the Bronze Opaque Microfine Glitter, once again from Glitter Ritz. And again, in the exact same manner, sprinkle on a generous amount, press it down with a clean dry finger, tap off the excess. And one of the things you'll notice is that the dark glitter did not transfer onto the area of the fine glitter. Once I tapped the back of my die cut piece, all that dark glitter came off of the light glitter area. So there you can see what all my glittered pieces look like, and they're ready to go onto the card. So now here you see I have a piece of pattern paper that comes from Studio Calico's 6x6 Classic Calico Collection Volume 2. And I'm stamping my sentiment onto it using my Ranger Adirondack Earth Tones Espresso ink pad, and the sentiment comes from the same stamp set that I used for the leaves and the acorn. Now, I typically keep all my pattern papers that have very neutral, subtle patterns like this because I find that they're pretty timeless and I use them over and over again. Now you can see there in the bottom left my paper strip. I took it to my paper cutter and I did trim it down so that it was 5/8 of an inch wide. I then set it aside and grabbed another piece of pattern paper that comes from that same paper pack. This time this is a 2 by 4 1/4 inch piece, and I'm sticking it to my card front, which is a standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card I created using Papertrey Inc.'s Stampers Select white cardstock, and I'm just sticking it down using some double-sided adhesive. I then took my little sentiment strip and just used my scissors to snip a little fishtail on the right hand end just to create a little banner. Now that paper strip was initially 4 inches long, and then after I trimmed it, it was 5/8 of an inch high by 4 inches long, and then of course I trimmed that little fishtail end, and at that point I'm not sure exactly how long it ended up being. I just knew that I didn't want it to go all the way across the card. And then when I stuck it down on top of the dark pattern paper piece, I stuck it so that it was about a 1/2 inch from the bottom of that pattern paper piece, or maybe more like 3/8 of an inch. So now to stick my leaves down, I just used some of my double-sided adhesive from Thermoweb. I think in retrospect though, I probably should have gone with a glue like the Tombow Mono Multi-Liquid Glue, a liquid adhesive, because I probably could have avoided having to touch the surface of my leaves there with my finger, because when you do that, I think you do end up pulling a little bit of glitter off the surface of your leaves. Now once I had stuck my leaves down, I then put some dimensional foam, this is a Stampin' Dimensional from Stampin' Up, onto the back of my acorn piece, and then I stuck it on an angle over top of the stems of my leaves. Now my final little touch was to take a Papertrey Inc. dark chocolate button and thread it with some Stampin' Up! Linen thread in a bow, and then I just used a glue dot and carefully tucked it a little bit underneath the edge of my acorn, and then positioned it so that one of the loops was overlapping the bottom of my acorn just a little bit. And then my final step was to just trim the ends of my linen thread. So that's how I created today's card. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Keep It Casual.